and welcome to the East Gippsland Shire Council's meeting of Tuesday the 27th of February 2024. East Gippsland Shire Council live streams, records and publishes its meetings via webcasting. These recordings are available for viewing by the public by following the link on Council's website. During the meeting, any members of the public who are addressing the Council will have their image recorded and comments also. No other person has the right to record Council meetings unless approval has been granted by the Chair, and I've received no such requests. In line with the Local Government Act 2020, councillors are able to attend council meetings electronically or in person, and the meetings will be open to the public via live streaming. If technical difficulties are experienced with the live streaming during the meeting, we will adjourn until the issue is resolved. If technical issues can't be resolved, the meeting may be postponed to a later time or date. I'd also like to start by recognising the traditional custodians on the land at which we meet today and say that the East Gippsland Shire Council acknowledges the Gunai, Kurnai, Monero and Bidwell peoples as the traditional owners of the land that encompass the East Gippsland Shire and their enduring relationship with country. The traditional owners have cared and nurtured East Gippsland for tens of thousands of years. Council value their living culture and practices and their right to self-determination. Council pays respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people living in East Gippsland, their elders, past, present and future. A member's attendance can only be recorded as present at a council meeting when the member can confirm that they meet all of the following criteria. Firstly, that they can hear the proceedings and can be heard by other members in attendance, and secondly, that they can see other members in attendance and can be seen by other members. I'll now confirm with each councillor attending online in turn that they can see, hear and be heard by each, and note an assurance from each of those councillors that the location they are participating from is secure to ensure that confidential deliberations remain confidential. Councillor Reeves, can you see and hear us?
I can indeed.
Thank you, and can you ensure us that the location you're participating from is secure?
It sure is.
Thank you. Councillor Van Diggle, can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can, Mayor.
And can you ensure the location you're participating from this evening is secure?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Councillor White, can you see and hear us?
Yes, I can, thank you.
And can you ensure us that your location is secure?
It certainly is also.
Very good. And Councillor Buckley, can you see and hear us?
Good evening, Mayor. Yes, I can.
Thank you. And can you also assure the Council that the location you are participating from this evening is secure?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Agenda item 1.2 is apologies. I believe there are no apologies for tonight's meeting. Agenda item 1.3 is declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors, are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to matters in tonight's agenda? I see none. Agenda item 1.4 is the confirmation of minutes. Councillors, we need confirmation that the minutes as circulated represent a true and accurate reflection of that meeting. Thank you, Councillor Allen. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Greason, thank you. Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Greason? No. Councillors, is the motion opposed? Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? In that case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll move down the agenda to item number 1.5, which is the next meeting of the council. And the next meeting is scheduled to occur on Tuesday, the 19th of March 2024 at the Corporate Centre at 273 Main Street, Bairnsdale, commencing at 6 p.m. Agenda item number 1.6 is requests for leave of absence. Ms Weigel, are there any requests for leave of absence?
No requests for leave of absence.
Thank you. Agenda item 1.7 is the open forum. We'll now move to the open forum section, and the first item is 1.7.1, which is petitions. Ms Weigel, are there any petitions?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no petitions tonight.
Noted. And 1.7.2, questions of council. Ms Weigel, are there any questions of council?
Thank you, Mayor. We have two questions tonight. Both are received in writing, and the Questioner, Mr John Butler Cole, has asked that I read the questions out for him, as he's not here tonight. The first question is, the preamble is that Council's preparations for national disasters, digital connectivity, gaps and priorities report from September 2021 is the preamble, and the question is, are all councillors aware of the content of this report and what actions have been taken to meet each of the recommendations made? Mayor, I would ask Stuart McConnell, General Manager of Place and Community, to respond to that question.
Thank you, Mr McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. So this area of work is still very much a work in progress. So councillors were provided with a copy of the information on the review at the time, and it's available on our website under the advocacy section. The report's been used extensively in council's advocacy for investment in additional telecommunications infrastructure. For example, there are more than 26 new towers, 13 upgrades that have been committed in East Gippsland since the 1920s. So to give you a sense of the scale of that work. And there's a range of backup power that has been installed by providers such as larger batteries. However, I would note, and probably the reason for the question, is that there's some questions to ask in terms of the experience of the last few weeks and what that means. And so we're still finding out information about that, so we can provide an update on that at another time. There were 15 key issues identified in the report, and action is underway, or it has been undertaken or is underway on 10 of these. It's not in this. The council's not a telecommunications provider, so much of our work in this space has been about advocacy and about supporting community and business with literacy and other programs. We've worked. One thing I would note is that we've worked closely with the Commonwealth Government's STAND program to install satellite communication at more than 40 community facilities across East Gippsland, and we're progressively rolling out generators as we can source funds to provide that communications backup as a last resort when landline and mobile systems fail. And so this is part of Council's deliberate approach to improving disaster resilience across the municipality, and as part of our strategy is to improve the community facilities as well as to strengthen the capacity of communities to look after themselves and to support themselves during an event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor. And we had a second question also from Mr John Butler Cole. And this question is, do councillors intend to hold public discussions with the whole community to identify their 2024-2025 draft budget priorities? And I'll direct this question to Sarah Johnson, our General Manager of Business Excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting CEO, and thanks, Mr Butler Cole, for the question. So, as you know, we're working through the development of the 24-25 annual budget. As to setting the priorities for the 24-25 budget process, what it does is operationalises the council plan. So the budget priorities stem from the council plan or strategies developed to support the delivery of the council plan, on which we do extensive consultation. A recent example of this consultation is the Bensdale 2050 strategy. For the consultation on the current 24-25 budget process, we've recently put the key dates and milestones for when this will open up for community feedback on the website, so you can find that information there. This is the final year of the council plan, so before we go into the deliberative engagement process, which will be needed to develop the 25 to 29 council plan, and obviously there will be much further engagement through that process as well.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. I believe that is all for questions of council tonight, which moves us to agenda item 1.7.3, which is public submissions. Ms Weigel, are there any public submissions?
I don't believe we have any public submissions tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Agenda item number 1.8, items for noting. Tonight we have one item for noting in accordance with section 54(5)(b) of the Local Government Act 2020. A copy of the Audit and Risk Biannual Report is to be tabled and subsequently recorded in the minutes of this meeting. Moving to agenda item number 2, which is notices of motion. As identified in the agenda, Councillor Mark Reeves has a notice of motion at item 2.1 titled Amendment to the Contents of the East Gippsland Shire Council's meeting minutes. I now call on Councillor Mark Reeves to move his motion by reading the motion wording, please. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, I move that Council 1 seeks a report on revising its governance rules to include in the minutes of each council meeting the names of each councillor who A, spoke on each motion and B, voted for, against or abstained from voting on each motion. And 2, notes that the Acting Chief Executive Officer will also consider introducing administrative practices to record the names of all councillors who voted for, against or abstained from each agenda item in the council meeting minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. And do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Allen. Thank you. Councillor Butler. I think Councillor Allen just beat you to the post there.
Thanks.
Councillor Reeves, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, in the rationale, I'd just like to quote the recommendation 24 of the IBAC Operation Sandon report, which calls for model governance rules that would require council meetings to state A, the names of each councillor who spoke on each motion, and B, the names of councillors who voted for and against each motion, regardless of whether a division was called. It's recognised that the recommendations from this report, councillors, are currently being considered by the Victorian Government, and proposed legislative reforms have been distributed to the sector for feedback. Therefore, the final position on whether or not a model governance rules will be introduced is yet to be determined. This council has previously discussed this matter and agreed to delay modifications to its governance rules, considering the above and in light of the factor it's an election year. However, councillors, open and transparent council meetings are vital to community and council integrity. When community members can clearly see how and why a council decision was made, they're able to understand decisions and hold their elected officials, that's us, to account. A lack of transparent decision making can conceal corruption or perceptions of corruption and diminish the community's trust that decisions are made in the public interest. The community has an expectation that councillors are present and committed to the governance process and actively contribute by participating in decision making. To remain mute and not cast a vote may be a personal prerogative, but the community has a right to understand why a councillor has made this choice and to remove themselves from decision-making processes. By ensuring that councillors document their decisions, councillors will be able to describe the reasons clearly and transparently for their absence, and it'll be on the record for perpetuity. This notice of motion would bring East Gippsland Shire Council into line with many other progressive and transparent shires across Victoria, Australia and internationally. And while council officers are preparing a report back to council on this matter, it would also be possible to enhance the council meeting minutes through recording the names of each councillor and their voting on each matter considered by council. Council's governance rules, sub-rule 13.1, sets out what must be included in the minutes. The recording of yes, no and abstaining is not on that list. However, there is nothing preventing an administrative decision to include additional information. Therefore, the organisation could decide to include this in the minutes after approval from the Acting Chief Executive Officer. The Acting CEO could then determine that to match the live streamed and publicly available recordings of open council meetings, the minutes will now reflect how each councillor voted, yes, no or abstained from each motion. Councillors, I hope that you support this motion and can see the value in doing so.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think if anyone reads the Sandon report, it becomes very obvious why this is one of their recommendations. And I think by bringing this forward now shows that we're committed to transparency and open government. And I urge councillors to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillors, is the motion opposed? Would anybody else like to speak for or against the motion? You may ask a question, Councillor Greeson. Please do.
A question to Councillor Reeves. In point 1 of your motion, you're seeking a report on revising the governance rules. Why do we need a report, do you think?
Thank you, Councillor Greeson, for that question. I asked the same question of our governance team, and indeed a notice of motion can only ask for a report and provide a recommendation that might come back to council as a report that we can then substantiate later. But I will defer to the governance officers, if required, to clarify that. Ms Alling, is anything further needed to be added there?
Through
Thank
you,
you,
Chair.
Alba.
Through you, Chair, that is correct, Councillor Reeves.
Thank you, Councillor Greason.
Thank you.
Councillor Buckley, would you like to speak for or against the motion, or do you have a question?
I'd like to speak for the motion. I think that it's an obvious step forward. Many councils already do it, and I quite often call for a division, and it just then we have to revisit the actual vote again. So it's expedient to have this in place. So I support it, and of course anything that improves transparency and respect from the community, that's the way that we should move forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. Councillors, would anybody else like to speak for or against the motion? No, in that case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors.
Mayor, do I need to call a division on that? Sorry.
Quite possibly soon. You won't need to. Agenda item number 3 is deferred business. I believe there is no deferred business for this evening.
That's correct, Mayor. There is no deferred business.
Thank you, Ms Weigel. Agenda item number 4 is councillor and delegate reports. Councillors, as previously discussed, we have made the decision to submit our reports for inclusion in the minutes rather than take up valuable meeting times, so I encourage you to do so. Agenda item number 5 is officer reports. The first report is a finance item at 5.1.1, finance report for the period ended 31st of December 2023. General Manager for Business Excellence, would you like to present the report for us, please?
Thank you, Mayor. So, councillors, before you is the report titled Finance Report ending the 31st of December 2023, which is seeking you adopt the finance report for the previous 6-month period ending 31 December 2023, and to note that the Acting Chief Executive Officer has determined that no revised budget is required for the 23-24 financial year. The high-level points is that the Local Government Act requires a quarterly budget report to be tabled with Council, detailing the financial performance to date. The forecast operating result is a deficit of $5.639 million compared to the adopted budget operating surplus of $43.559 million. The reasons for this difference are an $18.7 million advance payment from the Grants Commission, a $16.56 million capital grants reduction based on the timing of works between the 2 financial years, and $15 million in expenditure for operating projects that was received grant funding in the previous financial year, but the works were undertaken in the following financial year. You'll also note that the end-of-year cash position is forecast to be $15.054 million greater than the adopted budget, with the most significant variance being council cash for capital projects that are not budgeted to be spent in the current year, but will be spent in the following financial year, so carry over. In addition to all of the above, the Local Government Act requires that the second quarterly report include a statement by the Chief Executive Officer as to whether a revised budget is or may be required. You will note that the Acting Chief Executive Officer has declared that the revised budget will not be required for this particular financial year. Also present tonight is our Finance Manager, Liz Collins, who is available to take technical questions should we need.
Councillors, we've seen this at briefing. We've had the report presented to us tonight. Are there any questions of further clarification? Councillor Greason.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Your report states that the capital works budget, which is enormous for East Gippsland, $119.9 million, 21% will not be completed this year. Firstly, was this forecast? And secondly, is it going to be possible to achieve in the following year all of these projects, along with any new projects that Council will undoubtedly become committed to?
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Grayson. I might throw to Acting General Manager Wayne Robbins for this particular one.
Thanks, Councillor Grayson, and through you, Mayor. Councillor Grayson, no, the carry forwards are not expected when setting the budget, but this can happen for a range of reasons. Can be due to forecasting, can be due to grant milestones, can be supplier delays, redesign, etc. But to answer the question, I'm confident that it can be managed. And you'll note that most of the carry forwards are from a small number of large projects, which is the reason for the high number. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillors, are there any further questions? I see none, in which case we do have an officer recommendation in front of us. Do I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Stowe. Somebody to second that? Councillor Allen, thank you. Councillor Stowe, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, we've got great trust in our finance department. I'm sure this is very accurate and represents a true and fair picture of where we are.
Thank you, Councillor Stowe. Councillor Allen?
Only to say thank you, Liz, for a very comprehensive report. That's it.
Councillors, is the motion opposed? Councillors, would anybody else like to speak for or against the motion? In which case I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Our next report is and thank you, Liz. Our next report is item 5.1.2, Council Plan Progress Report, Quarter 2, 2023-24. Again, I'll turn to the General Manager of Business Excellence. Thank you, Ms Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. So before you have got the report titled Council Plan Progress Report for Quarter 2 for 2023-2024 for your information and noting. So this report provides a summary of the major initiatives, actions and strategic indicators listed in the annual action plan for the same year. The plan identifies 8 major initiatives that represent the high priority activities to assist and enable Council to achieve the strategic objectives in the Council plan. As at the 31st of December, 1 major initiative has been completed, with 6 on schedule and 1 behind schedule. Key highlights during the quarter include the completion of the feasibility study into the establishment of an arts precinct in Bairnsdale, the development of the East Gippsland Road Safety Strategy, which is well underway, with a draft strategy to be presented to Council shortly, and the Pathways to Growth program received additional applications, and the Painesville Classic Boat Rally recommended by the panel for inclusion in the program. The report is presented for your consideration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification? Councillor Uri.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a great report. Always good to see the Council Plan Progress Report, because this is the fundamental work of this council, so it's always good to see. And I think, generally speaking, there's really good progress in all of those areas. I just had one question, please, about one of the listed key highlights, which is the completion of the Arts Precinct feasibility study. Could I please be reminded about where that is listed in the council plan, and also what is the status of that feasibility study, please? Will that be made public? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Richards.
Thank you, Councillor Uri, and through you, Mayor. So the Arts Precinct feasibility study is identified within the Council Action Plan, so it's Action 4.5.4 of the Council Action Plan, which obviously relates back to Strategy 4.5 within the Council Plan. In relation to the feasibility, the publicity of the feasibility study, the full feasibility study contains some information which is considered private, so the full study is not publicly released. However, there was an abridged version that's been created that can be made available. Thank you.
Could I have a follow-up question, please?
Yes, by all means.
Thank you. And thank you. You reminded me earlier this afternoon of the date the councillors were presented with this feasibility study, so I was able to go back and have a look at it. It's great. And the reason for asking the questions really is to have this out in the public a little bit more for people who are interested in where we are with arts and culture and the development of these key strategies. So you mentioned if anybody's interested, they could get the abridged version of that plan. They could just contact council to do that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wonderful. And could you also tell us how that will relate to the Bairnsdale 2050 strategy which is being developed?
Thank you. So the report has been provided to the consultants who are working on the Bairnsdale 2050 strategy. So yeah, that will clearly inform some of the strategies and actions that take place as part of that plan. Thank you.
Excellent. And that's important for people to know about too, that strategy, because people are needed to be engaged with that, and that's on council's website and the Your Say page. I just wanted to mention that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Uri. Councillors, are there any other questions? In which case, do we have a mover for the recommended motion? Councillor Uri, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Greason, thank you. Councillor Uri, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I think I've already made a few comments. I really appreciate this report. I think it's great. If anybody's interested to have a read of it, it'd be a really interesting document for them to see. And of course, we're nearing the end of our term, really. We're in the final year of our term, so we're keen to keep an eye on these projects and how they're going. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you. Councillor Greason, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Just to add to Councillor Uri's comments, look, it is fantastic to receive these reports. It gives you a clear picture of where we're going. And for example, you know, one of the major initiatives, it's really pleasing to see the progress of implementation of organisation-wide strategies to embed Aboriginal engagement throughout this organisation. And, you know, it's going to start to shift the council towards being a culturally safe place for the Aboriginal community in East Gippsland, which is really important. So, thank you. So I'm pleased to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Greason. Councillors, is the motion opposed? I see not. In that case, would anybody else like to speak for or against the motion? No. In that case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. The next report is item 5.1.3, which is the council meeting resolution register, and General Manager for Business Excellence. I believe this sits within your area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're now presenting the Council Meeting Resolution Register for noting, and you'll note that the resolution registers are contained within the report from attachments 1 to 4. The report is a vital measure of Council's performance and provides information it needs to demonstrate transparency for the Council and Council's accountability to the community. The CEO is responsible for ensuring the decisions of the Council are implemented without undue delay. For a high-level wrap-up of where this is sitting, for the period of 1 October 2023 to 31 December 2023, Council had 20 open decision resolutions, of which 18 had been completed, 1 is in progress and 1 is not yet started, 6 closed Council resolutions, of which 5 have been completed and 1 is in progress. The report also provides an update on any outstanding actions from the previous report, which was tabled on the 14th of November, of which all but 2 have been completed. This update is provided at attachment 1 and 2 in your reports. The report is tabled for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification? Councillor Uri.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to inquire, and I have an interest in this because it was the result of a notice of motion on our page 112 of our notes on the 14th of November 23, the climate change initiatives. I just wondered if there was an idea of the timing around that. Will we see that actioned soon? Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Councillor Uri, and through you, Mayor. So, councillors, there is a couple of extra steps required to complete this item. As you're aware, we're looking to sign a council pledge, but as part of this process, we need to adopt an emissions reduction plan. So this emissions reduction plan is being developed at the moment and is scheduled to come to the 25th of June council meeting for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. 25th of June. Thank you. There were, to that notice of motion, I believe there were two parts. One was to request a report to come to council about the advisability of an advisory committee to council, of forming an advisory committee to council on around climate change initiatives, and the other was to make public the assumptions and information on which council bases its decisions around climate change, to make that available to the public on the website. I believe they were the two actions involved in this notice of motion.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Uri, but I will need to take those on notice.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Uri. Councillors, are there any other further questions? Councillor Greason.
Just the only red light here relates to the draft East Gippsland Sporting Facilities Plan. Can you comment on where that's at and why it hasn't started yet? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Richards.
Thank you, Councillor Greason. I can advise that the sporting facilities plan has been completed. It's obvious that there's been an omission in that report. Thank you.
That's really pleasing to hear. Thank you.
Councillors, are there any further questions? There is an officer recommendation in the report. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Allen. And seconder, Councillor Greason. Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I think it's been covered in the report and subsequent questions.
Thank you. And Councillor Greason, would you like to speak to the report?
Oh, it's just really impressive that all of these meeting resolutions have actually been completed and just a couple of them are just in progress. So it's very impressive. So thank you for this.
Thank you, councillors. Is the motion opposed? Would anybody else like to speak for or against the motion? In that case, I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. The next report is item 5.1.5, data dashboards. No. Oh, we jumped one there, sorry. The next report is actually 5.1.4, the discontinuance of the road reserve, part of the Lake Tyers Beach Road at Lake Tyers Beach. General Manager for Business Excellence, could you please present the report?
Thank you, Mayor. So the report seeks council approval to commence proceedings for the road closure and discontinuance to allow the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action, or DECA, to complete the sale of the relevant portion of this road, which is outlined in red at the attachment 1 of the report, to the current owner of the property. A little bit of background. The former owner of the Lake Tyers Beach Road General Store, which is located at 575B Lake Tyers Beach Road, constructed an all-abilities access ramp over part of the road. The road's a government road for which council has control for the maintenance and responsibilities, but it's included in the public road register. The total area of the all-abilities access ramp, which has been built within the road reserve, is 30 square metres. The owners of the property had their boundaries surveyed, and when officers reviewed the survey plans, it was identified that the general store's roof line is constructed within the road reserve and overhangs the all abilities access ramp. The owner would like to purchase the area of the encroachment. However, as the road has been identified as a council road, council cannot sell this part of the road to the property owner. The road has since been identified as not being required and that there will be no interruption to traffic flow that will stem from the closure and discontinuance at council's end. Because it's a government-owned road, council needs to commence proceedings to close and discontinue the road and can then refer to the matter to DECA to finalise the sale of part of the road reserve to the owner. The mechanism and process to do this is outlined in the recommendation. The report is presented for your consideration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. Councillors, are there any questions? I see none, but I will ask one. How has this come about? Is this a legacy of previous planning decisions?
Thank you, Mayor. Very good question. My understanding is, I might actually refer that question to Alba rather than try to answer it and get it wrong.
Through you,
Thank you,
Chair,
Sarah.
I'm sure you're on the right track, Sarah. We've just found in our records, stemming back many, many years, that there was a little error in the plans. So that was just identified through the surveying by the current owner. So we're just helping them to rectify that on behalf of council and the new owner.
Understood. Thank you. Councillors, if there are no further questions, I'll ask for somebody to move the report. Councillor Stowe, Councillor Allen to second. Thank you. Councillor White, did you have a further question? Sorry.
Yes, I did actually, but the computer was a bit slow with the hand.
It's all right. Please go ahead.
In looking at the overview of it, council will remove themselves as a road manager, but looking at it, will people still be able to drive on that surface to get to sort of the turning circle and things, so that the surface will still be wide enough, even though they'll sell the road, for people to still use it as patrons of the facility?
Thank you, Councillor White. Yes, my understanding is that that has been assessed and there'll be still full usage, and that's why the council, we have assessed it to say that it can be closed for discontinuance, because the access is still, will be all fine.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Ms Johnson. We'll just revert back to Councillor Stowe moving and Councillor Allen seconding that report. Councillor Stowe, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, look, sometimes all levels of government can be accused of not making common sense decisions. Well, this one I feel is a common sense decision. It's a practical thing. It won't affect anyone going there. We've been driving on this road in this condition for many, many years, and we'll continue to drive on it for many, many more. It just formalises what's already there, so I have no hesitation in moving it.
Thank you, Councillor Stowe. Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Mayor. And I endorse what Councillor Stowe has said, and I think that this is the start of a process, and the quicker we start it, the better, so that we can formalise the situation as it is.
Thank you. Councillors, is the motion opposed? Would anybody else like to speak for or against the motion? In which case I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Agenda item 5.1.5, data dashboards. The General Manager for Business Excellence. Again, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now turn to the report titled Data Dashboards, which provides council with options on the feasibility and viability of developing and implementing data dashboards. It presents 4 options for consideration, but recommends option 3, which offers the most cost-effective and appropriate alignment to council's forward plan, noting it's presented as an unfunded initiative. Further details are contained in confidential attachment 1, which details product information and associated implementation costs from commercial providers of data dashboard services. To note, the options put up for consideration in this report have been informed through collaborative discussions with other Victorian councils who are using or have used data dashboards. Council has a 3-year forward plan to replace legacy systems and implement improvement initiatives to enable data dashboard functionality. It's anticipated that the full functionality of data dashboards will be available as a result of the planned initiatives in 2025-2026. The officer recommendation is an interim but immediate solution for the visualisation of performance data via the Council's website through the use of infographics and videos for storytelling. Option 3 offers the most cost-effective and appropriate alignment to the forward plan and to achieve the outcome of transparency. Also present tonight is our Chief Information Officer, Phil Philippou, who is available to respond to questions as needed as well. The report is presented for your consideration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Uri.
Thank you for the report. Philip, I wonder if I could ask you please to just run through the implications for council of accepting the officer's recommendation in terms of the resources and any budget amounts that would be implied there.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Option 3 is an unfunded initiative, but it does allow us to implement an immediate and interim stopgap measure, and it does allow us to publish data in a visual form on the website so we can share that information with the community. So the cost that's shown per year is for resourcing to allow the media and comms team to be able to manually collate all of that information and put that together and publish it onto the website from the different systems that we have, because they're all legacy systems and they don't have any integration. So that budget will go towards being able to collect that data and also publish it in a format that will present it visually. So it's an unbudgeted initiative and it's over a 3-year period that will then allow us to move into data dashboards as being delivered by the Civica Phase 2 or the e-services implementation.
Yes, thank you. So it's for the employment of a specific person to do that work within council. Yeah?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Uri. Councillor Van Diggle.
Thanks, Mayor. I was just wondering how different is, I guess, the content we're going to receive from the council plan that we've just approved or the finance report that we've just approved, because in a way to me that seems like a pretty transparent process where people can, access that information. So I'm guessing how different is option 3 going to be for the cost?
Through you, Mayor, again. Thank you, Councillor Van Diggle. So at the moment, you are correct. We do report via the annual report and we have community announcements and we collect all of the data and publish data via Your Say and also the website. So this will be about publishing and putting together video content and also stories, which will form part of the page that will be published on the website. So at the moment, we deal with static pictures and information, but this option will allow for the collation of that data and the visualisation, which may be animation or may be video. Thank you.
Councillor Greason, you also have a question.
Yes, thank you. Given we have these massive reports, financial reports and the council progress reports and lots of them, how do you select the information? Well, how do you intend selecting the information that you would want to use in this kind of dashboard, assuming it gets up?
I can answer that. Thank you, Councillor Grayson. My understanding, and we certainly haven't got down to that level of detail yet, but we would be modelling it off the council plan and we'd be modelling it off the highlights in the council plan that we are planning to deliver on each year. So if we look at those 8 high-level strategic outcomes there, that would be the starting point, in my view, of how we would present the data. We'd also be looking at key areas, and finance is a very good one, where we'd be anticipating that community would want to see the information that's already there, you're quite right, but presented in a way that's much more digestible and therefore increasing the transparency of it. Capital Works would be another one. There's various other ones that we would consider as part of a prioritisation process.
Councillor, is there any further questions? In which case I may ask one. Philip, I understand this is the data dashboard system is one that's already in place at Frankston Council. Well, I understand, am I correct in thinking that we too, as a Shire, have an existing plan to implement that system, and part of the rationale for that is to provide an automated live system for the community to see both council expenditure and progress on different project metrics to improve the levels of transparency and ultimately accountability to the public for what council does?
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a forward plan which highlights and will allow council to build out systems that will automate the collection of data and publish data to a data dashboard. At the moment, our systems, our legacy systems, don't allow for that collation and automation of data or the publication to the website. So our forward plan will allow for that to happen. And the concept is that we will be able to automate the collection of all of the data that we report on and make that available to the community over the website.
Thank you. And am I right in thinking too that once that process is complete, which I understand will be delivered in, is it 2025, 2026, that process would actually come at no extra cost to council because those costs are already built in to the delivery of that system?
Correct. That initiative is funded.
Okay, so I'll just ask one more if the councillors will indulge me. Thank you. So the option 3 that we have recommended tonight seems to come at considerable cost. Am I right in thinking that that cost is actually associated with staff time that would seek to do manually for an interim period of, well, it looks like about 18 months, what this system would ultimately do in an automated and free way in the future?
Thank you, Mayor. I might try that one
Please,
first.
thank you.
Please. Yes, the future state is absolutely that we would be automated as part of the forward plan in 2025-26. The interim solution that's offered is to provide different pieces of information that are already out there in a way that's telling a story. Now, I can't necessarily tell you without having implemented that system in 25-26 if that's going to be pure automation. That is absolutely the goal, and that is absolutely the goal of the future state. Would there have to be some sort of manual intervention to bring all of that data because the data, remember, is collected at a particular end of a quarter or a month. So it's not live streamed per se, it's actually then collated and presented back up. So my suggestion would be, if it was designed with the intent that we propose to design it, then yes, it would be full automation at that particular period. Is there a stopgap in the interim that helps guide how that system will be set up for full automation? This is the proposal that would help assist that.
Understood. Thank you for the clarification. Councillors, are there any other questions? In which case we do have an officer recommendation. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Buckley, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Greason. Councillor Buckley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to speak to the motion, and I just have to bring up my notes. Bear with me a moment. The screen just jumped away. It's pretty important to get this right because having transparency, for our community is first and foremost part of my agenda when I stood for council was to achieve such an initiative. So I really would like to thank the officers for putting together their report. I think that they've done a really good job, and I understand it is a stopgap measure, but it's going to send us, in a trajectory on to where we need to be for our transparency. Sharing my view on the matter, I hope that the council group will support the undertaking, which will ensure easier access to information. Transparency is the cornerstone of a healthy democracy. It fosters trust, accountability, and citizen engagement. In today's digital age, where information is readily accessible, implementing a transparency hub on the council website is not just a good practice, it's imperative for building and maintaining public trust. First and foremost, a transparency hub serves as a central repository for all relevant information pertaining to the council's activities, decisions and finances. So I could go on, but I won't. I think we've had a fairly short meeting tonight, which is great. And I just really would like to ensure the councillors that this is money well spent. It is the stepping stone to the next venture that the next council group will take on. And I think that Phil is doing an excellent job, and I commend him and the team for taking us where we need to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. Councillor Greason, would you like to speak to the motion?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Just to add to what Councillor Buckley has said, I really feel that the more information that's available to the community that explains clearly where council is at with respect to its performance data, the better, and the sooner the better. So I support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Greason. Councillors, is the motion opposed? Councillor Uri.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to not support this motion, not because I don't think it's a good idea, and I do thank Councillor Buckley for bringing this forward and for the officers for providing the report. I have looked at the link to the Frankston website and tried to understand what benefit this, especially option 3, would give this council, and I do like what I saw in the Frankston example, and I think it's a really good thing to aim for. For me, it's not so much a matter of transparency, because I'm not convinced that the information provided would be new, but it would be, I understand, presented in a much more accessible way and easy to see. So I think that is something to aim for. However, as councillors know, and the officers, this afternoon we've had our third budget workshop trying to look at our budget for the next for 24-25, and things are really tight. And we've been looking at what we need to prioritise in council in terms of all the work that we do, and we need to cut some corners. Now, where that will all end up, it's not yet sure, but I know other councillors share my discomfort in having to do that. We want to provide a whole heap of services, and to me, this added service at this time, I can't justify putting the money towards that at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Uri. Councillor Reeves.
Thank you. I also can't support this motion at this time. I do want to acknowledge and recognise that Councillor Buckley brought this forward, and this has shone a light on a potential piece of work that is already underway in council. And the report that's been provided to us, I think, has really been valuable in enabling me to make an informed decision. But I think that what we're seeing is not a piece of work that the ICT team are going to do, it's the comms team that are going to be doing, trawling manually through existing documentation and other data that already exists. And honestly, I haven't had community members say to me, what I need is a video of the finance or the balance sheet. Those who really want that can get access to it and find the finances. And I think even just the council plan reports provide fantastic graphic documentation. Councillor Uri mentioned the constrained financial situation we're in at the moment, and that's another piece of transparency that I think the community needs to know, that this would come at an additional cost, and the work that is being undertaken through the Civica process will actually provide automated data in future, and that's what I look forward to. And I think that we should invest our time and our effort, councillors, in that automated process rather than what would be manual documentation and static information that I think is already available. So no issue with the notion, no issue with the concept, but I think at the moment we're building the aircraft as we fly it, flying the aircraft as we build it, I should say. I'll get the expression the right way around. And for those reasons, I just can't support it at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. And Councillor Buckley, I will afford you a right of reply. I'll just ask if other people would like to speak for or against the motion before doing that. Councillors, would anybody else like to speak for or against the motion? No, thank you. In which case, Councillor Buckley, I'll give you the right of reply. Thank you.
Look, I thank Councillor Uri and Councillor Reeves for their rebuttal in this particular matter. However, I think the point has been lost to the fact that this is the stepping stone to get us to where we need to go. This allows the comms team to come together and start the initial process of what's going to be a much broader participation for which will enhance public participation in the democratic process by understanding what we're doing, when we're doing it, and making it easy for that information to be readily available online in a format that they can readily engage with, so that the council encourages citizens to actively engage with their local government. Whether it's tracking upcoming meetings, accessing documents, that will come into the future in a more meaningful transparency hub. But I think this should be commended, and we should support it at this time, because it's part of the process that's going to happen anyway. So it's just that instrumental step forward. I think that additionally, embracing transparency can help attractive investment and economic development to the community. So businesses, investors are more likely to choose locations with transparent and accountable governance structures. They provide greater certainty and stability. So by sharing our council plan in video format, that's exactly what it will do. It demonstrates commitment to transparency through the Transparency Hub, and that the council signals to potential investors that the community is open for business, that we're serious about fostering favourable business environments and opening up our books for everyone to see. So in conclusion, a Transparency Hub on the council website, it's not just a tool for information sharing, it's a fundamental building block of strong, vibrant democracy. And by supporting transparency, the council not only fulfils its obligation to the public, but also lays the groundwork for more prosperous and engaged community. And I'll leave it there. So, councillors, I hope that you will support me and the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. And just for clarification, the motion that is about to be, that I'll soon call for a vote on, is actually for a trial of infographic and video storytelling implementation, and the Transparency Hub is the broader piece of work that Council is already undertaking to deliver by 2026. So thank you all. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And against? And I believe the motion is lost. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to agenda item number 6, which is urgent business. I think I've got that right. Are there any matters of urgent business? I don't believe there are. The CEO?
Sorry, Mayor. No, there is no urgent business that has been brought to my attention.
Thank you very much. And agenda item number 7 is confidential business. Ms Wygel, I believe there is no confidential business for tonight's meeting.
There is no confidential business listed for tonight's meeting. Excellent.
Well, thank you, councillors. That brings us to the meeting close, concluding proceedings for tonight's meeting. Thank you, everybody in the public gallery. If there's anybody there I can't see. Thank you all those watching online. Thank you, councillors, officers and staff. Everybody have a pleasant evening, and we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you and good night.
Yes.